Hello everyone, it's Sean from Sean's Model Builds. This video is more of a summary rather than a actual working on video. It's a summary of the progress I made on the assembly and detail painting of the Reliant during my last regular Hobby Club meeting this week. And don't mind me, I'm just doing a bit of adjustment on the guide so I can show you what I did bit by bit. Okay, alright, so let's see here. You can see the assembled Reliant here and the detail paint, like the near the front phasers, that's more a medium blue. That's supposed to be Deco Art Desert Turquoise in the circuitry panels, just like it is up there on the top and the end of the guns. And of course you see the copper there and the black on there before I put those pieces in place. I think that one on the left worked a bit better than the one on the right, your right. And of course on the bottom you see how I individually colored both the impulse deflection crystal and the impulse engines, and they colored in the torpedo launchers too. That back one looks a bit messed up, so that might be the excuse to put the damage decals on the back, but the front ones, they look pretty good. And I did them with the hull color as well. And I did light blue trim on the front of the roll bar. Yeah, alright. So now I'm going to take you through the guide and show you what I did. So, of course, I did my best to follow the guide. So in step one, I did put the bridge dome in place and then I glued from underneath. Same with the impulse crystal, glued from underneath. The sensor dome and the bottom impulse dome, and then I glued them from underneath, and then I assembled the saucer, as you can see here in step number 2. And of course there is a lip, a tray, that the impulse housing with the shuttle bays on it sits in place. So you have to put the ship in upside down, set the tray in, it's angled slightly that way, and then it works. It stays in place long enough for you to get the saucer together. So that was step 2. And then step 3 was assembling the nacelle struts and the top guns together. And I believe step 4 is the slightly complicated step, the one where I had a friend at the Hobby Club help me figure it out. So, despite what it shows in the picture in step 4, you do not put this strut against the part just like that, blocking an RCS thruster. You put the strut together, and there are 2 slots in the top that you can fit these 2 slots in. And of course, then you can fit the front in, but you have to fit the front part in first, then slide the long part back. And of course, before I did that, I put in the copper and the black, which I painted separately, and glued them from the inside. And of course, that's the other one done the same way. Then you move on to step 5, which is basically the roll bar assembly. So the first step is to put these torpedo things in the tray, pushed against the backing on the bottom half. Then you put the front sections in place. I mean, these 2 top sections, they go down there and they with the pegs. Then you put the bottom section on the top weapons pod, you put it down, and it has room to fit on these pegs and hold these torpedo launchers in place. Now that is step number 5. Step number 6, of course, I painted these first. You attach it into the slot, which I conveniently left paint free. Now don't worry if these weapons arms turn in slightly, that they're not straight vertical, because as you'll see in step number 7, those weapons arms need to be turned in slightly so that you can get the top roll bar on. And once you get the top section of the roll bar in place, then with the combined peg you can fit on the front and rear weapon phaser ports. it forms a complete peg that is small enough to fit tightly in the hole that is at the back of those weapons. And of course I painted them turquoise blue beforehand. So what I did is I painted most of the parts on the sprue tree separately so that when they were in the ship there'd be no paint run over. And of course any parts that look white like that, I will of course color in with my hull color mixture, but that'll be something to do tomorrow. And of course that is going to be painted a sapphire blue, just like the other one. This will be this grill here. Am I zoomed in too much? No, I'm at 1x view. This grill here will be painted black. I'll use the Q-tip around the edges. The only fin that gets colored with the Deco Art turquoise, desert turquoise, is the bottom fin, and a slight, very slight section it has on the back on both nacelles. And of course there's a bit of a seam on one of them, but it's not too bad. And of course you're going to color the front as well. I'm just going to use the Deco Art Desert Turquoise as the trim on the Excelsior for everything. The front of the nacelles. Now of course on the bottom, as you can see from the bottom of the box, there is a mixture of colors. Now there's a very dark color, but it's not quite black. That's more of an iron, I think. It's in all three sections. But you see that bluish gray? That's where I'm going to use the Hellblau or the RC10 or something. Yeah. So that's good. And of course then you can start putting on decals. Now you see that? Well, that trim on the front of the nacelle is almost the same shade as the Deco Art Desert Turquoise of the weapons, so no problem using that. And of course you look on the side. Now I'm not going to use all the damage decals, only some of them. Oh, look at that. Look at how there's Desert Art Deco Turquoise on the top there. So that may overcome the white. Okay. All right. And the copper and the trim. Okay, so the trim does go on that fin that points out a bit. It's out a bit from the surface of the nacelle. Okay. Let me adjust the camera just slightly here. 1 second. Well, you know what? That's okay. All right, so there's the side of the box. Now there's some damage along that nacelle. I don't recall it being there in the movie. I'll have to check the screenshots again. All right, here's the top of the saucer. Now, you could damage up the roll bar, but I am thinking to get the blown out impulse crystal. See how that says decal number 48? That might be a completely dark and blown apart impulse crystal from the initial attack. Now look at that. That is not Desert Art Deco Turquoise, is it? No. However, I like the look of it enough that I am going to give the Reliant a consistent trim. Something to tie it together with the Excelsior. And you see the blue trim. Now I put it on there on the front. You can't really see it. Now as far as those red stripes, you see those red stripes? If the decal doesn't work because I put the roll bar on, I'll try to approximate with a red Sharpie instead, but I think the decal will work. There is a grid line. There is a grid line, a recessed grid line right there where the red stripe will go, or a raised grid line. And you should be able to get the red stripe on there. Okay. You know what? I'm going to change all the trim, all the inset blue to the Deco Art Desert Turquoise. Yeah, except for this. This is where I started the RLM 310. It was the fainter greenish gray that I saw before, and that's quite good. It changes a bit based on the color. There, that's better, see? It's almost a greenish gray. And of course, everything that's going to be a white light, or red, because it's the Reliant. See, under there. Now, the impulse crystal, if you want to simulate the damage from Star Trek II, Khan's initial attack, you're going to have to do some stitching along there, some black damage decal. And don't forget the Aztec decals, which might be a bit more difficult to do on this part of the saucer because silly me, I put the roll bar on. I really should have left it off. And you can see the light blue trim. Take that picture actually. All right. And there you go. Focus. All right, let's see if I can do it like this. There, before I lose focus. Reliant raising. There's the Reliant from the bottom. There you go. Here it is from the side. Let's see if I can grab it here. There it is from one side. Okay, the back. All right, let's see here. Ooh, that's beautiful. That's a great angle right there from the back. Yep. And then from the other side. All right, good. So that is basically a summary of what I did on the Reliant. And of course, I colored those red impulse crystals on the sprue tree as well. And okay, yeah. Hey, that's good. I painted those torpedo launchers by hand with my mixture, and it seems to blend in perfectly with the hull color. Now, you can see how here, I'm going to need to put in the hull color manually. And if you look on this side, I already did a little bit. Come on, focus. See? It's a little darker. Rats. It's a little darker. Yeah, I should have made it smaller when I did the clipping. Silly me. But everything else fits in place, and the fact that the shuttle bay is mostly white is good, because then you'll have a white background for the thing. So there's still some detail painting to do. But this will essentially be part 2. So assembly and detail painting. And then detail painting continued will be part 3. And then we'll start with the Aztec decals. So that's all for now on the Reliant, and we'll see you here next time. I don't know how many weeks or quite possibly a couple months it's going to be before these Reliant videos get posted. I'm just finishing up the RoboCop car right now, model number 41.